All right, everybody. Now we're on the strap match, Sheamus and Mark Henry, which we were just right going right into this. This was a pain in the ass, and I completely agree with everybody's sentiments before we started recording that this was we started the downhill slope. Now, I spoiler alert, I did not like Extreme Rules. I thought that this pay-per-view was shit, and the U.S. title match and the Fandango match, I thought that they were good enough that I was just like, oh, well, you know what, this might build up to, we'll have, these are the mid-card matches and all that, so these aren't going to be
build up to something bigger and better.
yeah, the next match that we have, well, maybe that'll be the I Quit match, and that'll be a really good hardcore style match. Maybe the tag title match will be fucking crazy. Maybe John Cena and Ryback won't be as stupid as it could potentially be. And this strap match, ugh, strap matches are hard. You can't really do much in them, and they get really boring. And that's kind of one of the things that plagues last man standing matches too. But with this strap match,
it's because of how limited the performers are.
Yeah,
I mean, you're strapped to your opponent. You're playing the whole tug of war, and you're scrambling to get three. You hit three corners, and you get pulled back. Then it gets redone, and the other person goes to do it, and they get fucked over. So when they hit three, it goes back. And all you're doing is lumbering around with this guy strapped to your wrist. And then you're trying to fold up the middle to try and whip him with it. And it looks like shit because there's barely any distance between the opponent and the actual strap hitting them. And it looks like it's made of, like, cotton.
That was the worst strap I've ever seen.
It looked horribly, terribly fake. I don't know what it was made of to make that whipping noise, but that did not look like anything that would hurt. It looked like medical gauze painted brown.
That's exactly what it looked like.
Oh, Jesus Lord. It's typical Sheamus booking. I'm just as strong as Mark Henry. Pulls him right in. And then, the finish was even worse. Pulls him he hits three of them. Mark Henry nearly stops him. He counters into a bro kick. Does the superhero plunge into the fourth corner and ends the match. Good victory there, fella.
This
Didn't
is
end up winning in 30 seconds, though.
This is the inherent problem and flaw with strap matches. Unlike something like the Elimination Chamber or the Royal Rumble or just like a standard steel cage match or anything like that, those all have some kind of built-in way to keep the action going. Royal Rumble gets people tired, but then, a minute later, 90 seconds later, another person comes out and everybody goes, who is this going to be? 10, 9, 8, 7. And then their excitement gets back up. With the strap match, the whole foundation of it, and this applies to Last Man Standing too, the whole foundation of it is based on the idea of the action being slow and then stopping to a dead halt. You can't do the match with somebody like, theoretically, these people have these like ladder matches and these Hell in a Cell matches and all that, and they're getting chair shots to the face and they're fucking throwing themselves on tables and all this kind of crazy stuff's happening, and they're still getting up and kicking out after a 2 count. But in a match like this, you have to kind of oversell everything, and I'm gonna really slowly go and tap the one corner and really slowly walk to the other one and tap the other one, and it's kind of like you either have to start the match off with like such what's like a good word that I could use here? Like, you have to start it off with such a bang that it makes it look like they just completely destroyed each other and that's why they're going so slow. Or it just seems like this boring thing where, the guy, he hit one body slam and now the whole rest of the match he can't walk. And every time we get close to the match ending, it has to come to a screeching halt, and then we have to go, oh, he almost got it. Let's look back at how he almost touched the fourth one. Like, it's just dumb.
Can I...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, to be fair, though, were you really expecting a fast-paced matchup from Mark Henry and Sheamus?
Not at all. That's why I wasn't really excited.
Yeah.
If it were any other no-holds-barred stipulation that could have went outside the ring, maybe did the old spear through the barricade or power slam through the barricade spot or attempt a
but
world's strongest slam through a table,
true, but
not
they already.
fighting over cotton.
I understand that, but they already had they already have an Extreme Rules matchup on there. They already had the Last Man Standing matchup. I'm going to defend the choice to make it a strap match because with these guys, you really can't expect them to do much. So you really do have to kind of hide it behind a gimmick. And like Tony said, the whole basis of a strap match is it's a very slow matchup. And yeah, and that's the kind of matchup that you expect these guys to have anyhow. So you figure you hide it behind the stipulation by tying them up with a strap and forcing them to have to hit the corners. It doesn't bother me in that regard that they did it. I'm sure I would have hated it either way. I mean, if you'd have put Sin Cara versus Evan Bourne in a strap matchup, I probably would have hated it just as much. But
God,
I'm
imagine the
okay.
botches in that one.
Yeah, I'm going to give him an okay. I'm going to give him a pass on this one. I'm not going to say I didn't watch it, by the way, but I probably, like I said, would have hated it, but I'm going to give it a pass because this is probably the best matchup these two could have had either way. Given the fact that they didn't have access to any other type of matchup. So I'm not going to dump on this matchup as bad as everybody else did because I get it. From a booking perspective, I understand why they did it.
See, my problem is a steel cage match is really boring when everybody just keeps going to try to escape the cage, but they add the pinfall and the submission aspect into it, and that gives you some variety. I think that this match would have been made so much better if pinfalls and submissions were legal. Because then you didn't have to go all the way to the turnbuckle every time. They could have still had it win, had Sheamus win with a turnbuckle situation. The same as they can still win from steel cage matches if they escape the cage. But that, I think, could have made it that much better because they could have had a normal wrestling match, but then just something added to it with them being strapped to each other. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I was going to say. That what you're trying to say is in the case of these other gimmick matches like a cell match or an Extreme Rules matchup, it doesn't make the core wrestling fundamentals of it worse. Whereas a strap matchup, you really can't have a regular wrestling matchup because of the fact that you're tied to your opponent and you have to stop to hit the turnbuckles.
Right.
I get that, but really these two guys weren't going to have a good wrestling matchup anyhow, so I say just hide it behind the gimmicks, and if the matchup sucks, you just blame the gimmick. You don't blame the guys themselves.
What do you think, Burhan?
I think Burhan went to go take a dump again.
My son's just woken up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just had to mute the mic for a second. But I agree 110% with what Miguel was saying. You can't expect these two to put on a 5-star match as it is. This probably was the wrong kind of match for them because it's a strap match. You've had Eddie and JBL, which was a prime example of a strap match that actually meant something. It looked awesome. People were still on the edge of their seats when it came to it because they were going back and forth with it. With these two, it was very slow paced. They had to tell their little story, and it's sort of one guy trying to outdo the other. But in a sense, it probably would have done better if they were in, I don't know, like an Extreme Rules match, or even something like a Falls Count Anywhere match. Something that made
street fight.
Yeah, something that made more sense, that these guys would be slugging each other and slugging out their kind of tension and even using the straps. But they went with the strap match, and this is what we got for it. It wasn't a bad match, but it wasn't great either.
As I said, I mean, everybody probably seen, or I assume seen SummerSlam 2011, right? Sheamus and Henry had a match on that show that was way better than the match that they had at Extreme Rules.
Right.
Yeah, you don't expect these guys to be like the greatest workers, but you know that they can pull out something more physical.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But,
wait a minute. Was Mark Henry going into the pay-per-view injured? Because I think one of you guys mentioned that he's just now gotten injured. Did he go into the pay-per-view injured, or did he come out of it injured?
He's not. No, I don't think he's necessarily injured. I just think he's taking time off.
He's not. I don't think he has a specific injury. He just might be a little bit banged up and taking time off, or maybe he's not. It's in question right now. Listen, I don't have as much of a problem with the gimmick that they use for the match, although I think they could have found something better. I mean, I understand they were a little bit limited with all the other things they had going on there, but why couldn't they have done something like a body slam challenge or something along those lines?
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been worse.
No, see, I would have been.
Body slam challenge.
I mean, the end result could have been a little weird, but at the same time, just for something different, I probably would have been a little bit more excited in it if they would have had maybe even like a best out of 3 challenge thing or something, and not something stupid that they would have had on Raw or SmackDown, where it would have been like, let's literally have them eat up a half an hour of standing around in the ring and cutting a promo to each other and, all that. They would need to do something that was like in their time frame that they could have like a feat of strength or something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe, hell, maybe they fucking beat each other up with weight room equipment or something. I don't fucking know.
Gosh. Now,
the truck contest.
I'll say the gimmick didn't bother me. What did bother me was the result. Mark Henry was really building up a lot of steam. I was feeling like he was going to have another big summer. We were going to see a lot of inductions into the Hall of Pain. He just had that WrestleMania victory over Ryback. And in one night, I just felt that balloon get completely deflated.
Due to a fucking brogue kick.
Yeah.
Gosh. I'll get more to that later, but Mark Henry, man, I was really looking forward to another big thing for him.
That's kind of been the same vibe I've gotten from Sheamus and Mark Henry through most of the build-up, You've got Mark Henry doing these feats of strength and doing all these really interesting things to build him up as a threat, and then you've got Sheamus there as just a complete tool, really just kind of cutting off his legs at the moment. It's like you build up this character, and then you have Sheamus just go out there and just, punt kick him in the nuts.
The feud is Henry does something awesome in a feat of strength. Sheamus chuckles it off, catches him off guard with a bro kick and cheap shots him, pounds his fist, goes, ah! And walks off.
Now, here's what I don't get. Mark Henry can pull 2 semi-trucks attached behind him, but he can't pull measly Sheamus around a ring and tap 4 corners?
Well, Sheamus is the Irish Superman.
He's got to look strong, triple Sheamus. Telling you.
I just think the match altogether was badly booked. It seemed to me that they had no idea what they were doing.
I know exactly what they were doing. It was typical Sheamus booking. That is just, that's how he wins. Big old bro kick out of nowhere, and then does the awesome comeback, and he wins a match.
Well, I have both a question and a theory about this. Question being, why give Mark Henry the win over Ryback if you're going to have him lose at Extreme Rules? To an extent, I could ask the question about this. Why didn't they do Ryback against Mark Henry at Extreme Rules like we all thought was going to happen? Why did they need to include that and screw up the whole big Sheamus and Randy Orton and Big Show thing? That all went fucking haywire. They just changed their plans in the middle of nowhere. But the theory about Sheamus winning here, and why I think we're going to get Damian Sandow losing to Sheamus and all that. I think what we're getting is we're getting Sheamus built up to a match with Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam.
Ooh.
If it builds up to that, I will be fine with it, because believe it or not, I think Sheamus is one person who Brock could actually have a good physical, hard-hitting match with.
Same. I remember when you talked about booking the Heavyweight Championship when Sheamus was run, and it was the lead up to an eventual match between him and Lesnar. And I think it would be a great match to have when Lesnar initially wins, and then have Sheamus come back for like the repeat.
Sheamus at this point in time, as much as I give the fellow some slack, I really do think at this point in time I would be much more interested, especially because he's other than John Cena, he's like the best booked face in the company. I'd much rather see him face, a Brock Lesnar than like a Randy Orton. He's at least somebody who people would think of, well, he might not be as big as Brock, but man, he sure wins a lot. He's pretty impressive. Maybe he could actually beat Brock Lesnar. We've seen Cena and Triple H do it before. Can Sheamus do it? Maybe he can.
Well, here's what I think could be the draw to this. I hate this Triple H angle, but if they're hell-bent on doing this, they can drag it out long enough that Sheamus can be one of these people that's like, hey, maybe you shouldn't wrestle anytime soon and all that, because they could do that whole, like, you beat my arse at WrestleMania and you set me straight and you're,
Love your use of
you're like,
arse in that promo.
right, you're a mentor to me, and I'm gonna watch out for you, Triple H. And Brock
Fair
Lesnar
enough.
comes back, and then it's like, oh, so you're gonna be Triple H's like little bodyguard, aren't you? Well, Brock Lesnar will kick your ass too, and then they have that match, and Brock
just
and
have Brock.
Sheamus, that match could sell.
Yeah, I think it could sell very well. I think at this point he's the best next opponent for Brock Lesnar. Who's I've heard rumors about the CM Punk match, whether that takes place at SummerSlam or Survivor Series. I don't know how they're even going to do it. I mean, they're both heels. So
when CM Punk comes back, he can instantly become a babyface.
I'm sure he could. But if he's taking time off past the fall, into the fall, which means past SummerSlam, I think Sheamus is definitely the best bet for Lesnar at this point.
I think that this is how they need to play this. You need to go. There's only 3 people right now that 4 people. 4 people that could have a match with Brock Lesnar that I think means anything whatsoever.
And would that include Cena being for the WWE title if he's still champion at the time?
No, I think you have to bypass that entirely.
Okay.
Because the only way to do that is to have Cena beat Lesnar. I think you've got Sheamus against Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam based off of this whole Triple H feud. You have... Actually, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit here and there. I'm going to only mention one for another, and one for the end. I'm going to break this up. Sheamus and Brock Lesnar, because of the Triple H feud at SummerSlam, and I'll tell you what the other 2 are, or what the other 3 are, when we get into the Brock Lesnar Triple H match, and when we get to another match.
Ooh, that's a teaser.
There you go, teasing.
Stay tuned for more.
Any other thoughts for Sheamus and Mark Henry?
I think we basically said everything that needs to be said, fella. Let's go get a pint.
All right, everybody. We're going to roll on to the next part and talk about the Del Rio and Jack Swagger #1 contendership I Quit match.